Yo, what up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how Siege is intrinsically a defender oriented game, with the defenders having the advantage over the attackers. And just going to be talking about our ideas about how we think that we could, what changes we think we could make to mitigate that, to make it more balanced between defenders versus attackers. I'm Ryan.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Alfred.
All right, guys, let's get into it. All right, guys, so we're going to talk about two big reasons that cause Siege to be defender-sided. The first one up is how Siege is inherently defender-sided, just by how it's set up. So, naturally, defenders will always have the edge because they have time on their side. They never have to push. They never have to make a move, while the attackers have to execute and push into the point. As well as defenders will have so much utility operators like Valkyrie and Maestro, so much vision and utility and ways to get intel gathering, where attackers have to drone out, they have to figure out their intel by themselves, and they have to push the objective. So it's always going to be harder because they have to make it happen. This particular reason will affect lower ranks more than higher ranks, and the higher you go up, it will affect the less and less. So that's why you see this could have a big effect on lower levels like copper and bronze, where it won't have a high effect on platinum, champion, and people that play pro league. And then the other factor that we're going to talk about is the utility meta that has become in Siege, and why people call it a utility simulator or a 20-second meta. So this is more about how defense has a utility advantage over attackers. And this one in particular is the complete opposite. This will affect pro league players the most, and it will affect lower ranks the least amount. So it's the complete opposite effect. Siege does not release rank win-loss stats for attackers versus defenders, so you can't see what the win losses are. But originally when Siege came out, before this utility meta became a big thing, just for a general understanding, most of the Pro League win-losses were around 51-52% defender-sided, because the inherent nature of Siege didn't really affect them. But when this utility meta came around this last year or so, their defensive win rates has gone up to 55 or 56%. So you can see how this utility meta is really affecting even the higher ranks. So there's really no way of fixing the first obstacle we talked about, because that's just how the game is built. So one thing we can do, and we would want Siege to do, is to address the second one, the utility problems, that imbalance in Siege. And we've seen Ubisoft be for addressing this, as in recent months they took out one of Goyo's shields as a direct result of defenders having too much utility. So you could see that Ubisoft is really looking to change it, as well as you probably have heard a lot of Pro League players, content creators, and a lot of people trying to address this problem because it's become a big thing in part of Siege. So let's get into our main discussion for today, which is going to be how do we fix this utility problem. So our main discussion we're going to talk about is if we think attackers should gain more utility or defenders should lose more utility. So me personally, I know I'm on the defender side, but I don't know how you guys feel.
It's a tough one. I don't think that just giving a bunch of attackers just different utility is the best way to go. I think overall, reducing the amount of utility that defenders have is probably the easiest and most practical way. For example, like reducing, for Maestro, maybe instead of Maestro getting 2 cams, you can do just as well almost with 1, without it being really oppressive. Like that's my opinion on it, though.
Do you think
I'm
it's
kind of in.
You think it's easier to nerf defenders utility?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think it's easier.
But which
it's
one
more
would
practical.
you prefer to say? We're going to talk about both sides in detail, but which one would you prefer to see first?
I prefer to see defenders utility getting nerfed before attackers utility getting buffed currently right now.
And you offered, which one would you prefer to say?
I think, I would probably prefer to see attacker utility.
Attacker utility buff.
Attacker utility.
Okay.
Well, I mean, look at Melusi right now. Like, look at the utility she brings. She's going to be another type of Jaeger person. Places her abilities and she just runs away. Doesn't have to think about it. And that's already going to be amazing.
I mean, me personally, I think nerfing defenders is easier, but I don't know which one I would prefer to see. Probably attackers, but at the same time, I don't know what that game would be like. Okay, so
Like
we'll
I do want to see attackers get buffed, but I want to see defenders get nerfed first.
okay, so we'll talk about. Should we talk about defenders first or attackers first, Ryan? You pick.
Let's do attackers.
All right, so so now we'll all talk about how we would buff attackers. So if we were gonna buff attackers, how would we buff them? Who
Well, I
personally
think
would you want to see buff?
I want to see knock buff.
But how would you give Knock more utility to be able to deal with the defender utility?
Maybe make it to where I suggested this to you before, but maybe make it to where whenever knock activates her ability, whenever she walks past barbed wire, it doesn't make any noise. That is one form of utility, a strong form of utility that she completely bypasses. I don't think it's too
Okay.
much for someone like Knock. Like their specialty is being, in a sense, I guess, evasive with traps and cams.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean. So do you think it's better to add utility to people that are less played, or do you think it should be adding
No,
utility to people that are more played? Because there's
no,
pros and
add
cons to both.
utility to people that are less played. Play into their specialties, what they're good at, or I guess their type of archetype, which is why I brought up the knock example. Uh,
But the thing is, if you buff people that aren't played, does it make them good enough to be played? Because if you buff them and they not still played, then you did nothing for the attackers overall. You know what I mean? If you buff them and give them more utility and they're still not played, then you
I
didn't really
understand.
achieve your goal. You know what I mean?
I
What would
feel like
you?
you should go the other route.
You should buff
And
attackers. That
no, I'm saying you should buff, yeah,
the
attackers
people that are
that
always played.
exactly.
But
What
then the
about the
only
ones that are
yeah the
never
only
played?
well the only thing con to that if you go to buff the attackers that are always played like Zofia and Ashe, if you give them an extra charge breaching round, it just makes them a must pick even more on top of it. So there's pros and cons to both sides. That's why it's a
It
little
just
hard.
creates too much of a larger disparity between the already top tier attackers and the lower tier, the bottom tier.
Yeah, but
To me, it just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, I already feel like this game though has picked out a pathway where they're going with the certain people that are just better than the other people. So just buffing those people that are already at the top do really much? I think we've already accepted that it's not going to be perfectly balanced or everyone's viable.
They have to do something. I mean, you really can't just forget about them.
Yeah,
And I think they need more attention right now than the people who already do get picked, who already have some form of use to team.
see to me, and I brought this up once before. The easiest way to give attackers more utility to deal with the defenders' utility is give more people frag grenades. And they given the last few operators Knock and Lana frag grenades, but yet they don't see much play at all. So giving operators frag grenades that aren't played a lot might not do anything at all if those people are still not played.
Right. So do something a little more unorthodox and play into their specialties. I guess maybe instead of just buffing the utility that they can bring, like as far as secondary gadgets or whatever, like just buff their abilities. What their abilities
Like
can
who,
do.
for example, though, would you think? How could you buff utility though to defend with to combat the high defender utility?
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm not keeping that in.
You really think that they should just ignore the bottom tier attackers? Should they just give up on them?
To me personally, though, well, you know, we're never gonna find a game where we have 100 operators that are completely balanced and perfect.
No, I understand. Some people are going to be better than others, but
Yeah,
should the developers acknowledge that and just simply ignore them? That's the big thing.
I just don't
Because
see.
that seems a little crazy.
I mean, if their main issue is to deal with the utility problem, I think the direct way to deal with the utility problem, if you went to the buffing attackers route, would be give Zofia and Ashe an extra breach charge, and that alone could probably
Even
solve most of it.
you could do something crazy like add a weird secondary gadget that directly counters the utility. Like maybe like some form of EMP, I don't know. But some form of secondary gadget that only these never picked or rarely picked people can get. The same for what they're doing with defenders with proximity, the little proximity mine things.
Yeah,
They're
I've thought about this before. What if you give a secondary gadget like a temporary EMP, like
Yeah,
a
temporary
small
EMP or
a smaller
some.
version of how Thatcher is, so you make Thatcher less important, and you could give it to
Yeah.
other people.
I
I
think
just
that's more of the route that they should focus on.
I just don't
I don't
know.
know.
Because also you got to realize too, Thatcher's. I mean, it gives you another thing replacement for Thatcher because Thatcher's ban rate is going higher and higher every season. But I don't know. I don't know if that's enough though to get people to be playing them. Right now, there's just so much
Depends on how good this
defender
the
utility.
gadget would be. How many? What defender gadgets would you consider to be super oppressive or super bad right now?
Super oppressive.
That really makes an impact. So one of them that I can think of is Jaeger and Walmart.
I'll tell
Those
you.
will always be good.
Jaeger, yeah, Jaeger and Walmart's gadget, deployable shields, Maestro cameras, Echo drones,
Definitely Echo drones. Yeah.
and I mean, I think that's the big ones off the top of my head. But I'm sure there's much more that I'm not thinking about right now.
What about mute?
Sure. Oh,
Are
I mean,
mute
yeah.
cameras very bad?
I wouldn't say they're oppressive, and they're not that hard to deal with because you can still one-shot them, but you can just shoot them out. But it could be. I wouldn't say, but then there's also things, yeah, but you have to get like bandits off the walls, you have to get the Kate off the walls, plus you got to deal with all that. It could add up to a lot of utility you have to deal with. Barbed wire, Mozzie Pest, you know.
Yeah.
You could have a castle, I didn't even think about castle. Castle, barricades. There could be a lot of utility you have to deal with to throughout around. I mean, most of those things get strictly countered by frag grenades. That's why I think if they were gonna add
And
utility to
badges or
attackers,
EMP effects.
yeah, but a shield won't get stopped by an
No, maybe
EMP.
not the shield or castle, but the majority of the gadgets that are super oppressive are electronic. And there's only one person currently right now. I mean, really two, Callie, but I'm not really counting her. She's not that reliable. But Thatcher really is the only type of person that can produce that type of EMP effect that nullifies those utilities.
Yeah, I mean, well, you could have
That's the
IQ
biggest
to.
problem. Thatcher is the only one that can do his job well. And that's where the problem lies.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's when if Thatcher's banned, that's when it becomes a super lopsided defender utility because there's no one on attack that could actually have any chance to deal with it. All the
I
utility.
mean, his role is so essential that he's not just simply a support. He's literally the EMP guy. That's his role. You have your hard breachers, you have your entry fraggers, and then you have your EMP guy. And the only person that can really do that is Thatcher.
So you think
Thatcher's
the way they address this issue, if they decide buffing attacker out, is to add temporary EMPs or a secondary form of EMP to
I really do. I
multiple
think
other
that directly
attackers.
counters it. Yeah, all of the majority of defender utilities are electronic.
I mean, I can't say it's everything, but it could help.
No, it's
Yeah.
not everything. But
Barbed wire and shield, they wouldn't be able to get out, but it could affect a lot of other stuff.
like, and it's perfect too. You don't want something that can do everything. There still are utilities that it doesn't counter, like shields and castles and whatnot.
So you don't think they should pick for adding impact to Zofia and Ash or adding frag grenades to certain attackers?
No, they have their roles. I think that they're good at what they're supposed to do. I don't think there's any reason to make them any better. People like Zofia and Ash are already good enough.
Gotcha. I personally think though that there's not enough frag grenades in the game right now with all the shields and all the barbed wire and everything. If you're not Zofia or Ash, you literally have no way to deal with them. So I think there's got to be more relevant attackers that have frag grenades. Because think about how many relevant attackers right now have frag grenades. It's really Sledge and Maverick, and that's really it.
More frag grenades would be good. Maybe add them back in Dokkan and Buck.
You know what I mean? Because right now, no one sees them on Nock and Lana. You really only see Maverick and Sledge. So I think having more frag grenades could be beneficial. And if you wanted to go to extreme and address the issue directly, I think you would go for the Zofia and Ash. But I think that could be a little too extreme.
Yeah.
All right, should we move on to the defensive side for it?
Yeah.
This one I think we'll have a lot more to talk about because I think there's some crazy ideas we can come up with.
Well, here's an easy suggestion.
What's that?
For the people that have multiple gadgets, just take one away. Like, I don't think there's any reason for Mute to have 4 jammers. I don't see why he can't have 2, or not 2, 3. I think 3 is more reasonable within the range that other people have. Like Mozzie has 3 pass.
So what is your guys' idea on how we would, initial idea, how we would take away utility from the defenders? Because there's always the simple option of Echo loses a Yokai Drone, Miestro loses an Evil Eye, something like that. But I think that could be a little too extreme, and there's other ways around it.
I don't know. You tell me.
All right, well let's talk about different things. We'll talk about operator by operator. You want to talk about Jaeger first?
Delete him.
No, I think
I think Jaeger.
he should definitely lose one of his ADS.
Yeah, I think it's time for Jaeger to lose an ADS. I don't think he needed to go down to 2 speed, but I still.
I think if he loses an ADS, though,
But
it
then
should be something to like his ADSs are bulletproof. Then
I don't. But why do you even have to do that? I think if you lose an ADS and has 2, that means he can get 4 grenades. So then it's actual debate between if you pick Walmart or Jaeger. They have around the same gun damage, so it's really about Walmart has the potential to get stop more projectiles than Jaeger can, but he has to stay alive and he has to play smart about it. But Jaeger, he's not going to get as much, but he's going to get that value guaranteed. He could place it down right away and he could die. So it's more about that guaranteed value where Ramai is the higher potential, but you have to play a certain way. So I kind of like if Jaeger lost an ADS because then it actually makes you pick and think about how you're going to play in your decision. Because right now it's pretty much Jaeger every time over Walmai unless you want a shield.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You guys think it wouldn't be crazy if Jaeger lost an ADS?
No, I think that's reasonable. Very reasonable.
I was trying to think of a way to balance it out, like maybe making it bulletproof, but I don't think that's a good idea. Just keep it how it is and just take away 1 ADS. And he's still going to be strong. He's still going to be picked.
Exactly. He'll still have his good gun. His ability is still going to be great. It just won't only be able to get 4 instead of 6. Alright, so let's talk about how other defenders that can be oppressive and have problems like this. We'll go on to Miestro. How do you think you would change Miestro in this situation? Because I feel like Miestro really can't go down to 1 Evil Eye. I think that's too much of a hit on him.
I think it is too much. I mean, what do you? Well, okay, let's address this problem. What is this problem? What makes him oppressive? Why do you think he's oppressive?
Oh, well, he's got so much utility because it's free intel. The defenders have to waste a lot of utility in order to get rid of that intel. The fact that you have intel and there's nothing a defender can do, an attacker can really do unless they expend a lot of their utility is where it's crazy. And he can also deny plants while shooting, and he could destroy attacker utility himself with shooting. So that's where it becomes. Just the fact that it's impossible to get rid of. And the fact that he could die and you still get that vision, you have to use so much utility to get rid of.
Yeah. Even though the vision stays fixed whenever he dies, it still is great intel.
So to me personally, I think the one way you could fix him is because the big problem is you have to expend so much utility to get rid of his evil eyes. I think when he dies, me personally, his evil eye should open. So you still have the vision, but the attackers can go and shoot it, so they don't have to waste the utility anymore. That's how I thought it should be. Because it shouldn't be a way that it's still like, it's kind of gimmicky that he dies and all of a sudden the bulletproof glass opens up, but I just think it makes it a way that if Miestro pushes out or, gets crazy aggressive, then he should be punished for it, and then his gadget isn't as strong. And you don't have to use all your Zofia charges or Ash charges to get out his Miestro cams. What do you think about that idea, Ryan?
Yeah, I'd like force them to stay alive. It's not just free utility like the rest. his utility is a little more stronger because it opens up a lot more opportunities being able to place not only just cameras but bulletproof melee resistant cameras.
Hmm.
That is very, very strong.
See,
So
I just don't know how much the nerf will do to him because if you're playing Miesha, you're already not getting that aggressive. You're going to play cautious. But I mean, I think it's something. If you get the pick off on him, then his cameras are gone. You can get rid of his camera. I mean, they're still there. You can still see until they shoot it out, but it makes them vulnerable. I think that could be a good idea.
yeah, I think it's an interesting idea.
Do you have any other ideas though for Miesha besides that?
I don't really know what you can change about him.
Hmm.
Maybe I was gonna say take away his Bard for a bulletproof for a small nerf, but that wouldn't really make any sense.
All right, so then we'll move on to the next person, and if we think of any other ideas, we'll come back. So next up is Echo. What do you think, Ryan, is so oppressive or makes Echo so oppressive to play against?
His drones are invisible whenever they're on the ceiling. They can stun you and stop you from planting, and the stun is obnoxious. And he gets two of them.
Hmm. I mean, it's
I
not just
think that's way too much.
it's not that it just stuns you. It blurs your screen. You can't hear. It makes a hearing noise. It does stop you from planting. It also drops Montane shields. It does a lot of different things. So it can be very oppressive. Also, he doesn't, get Doke if he calls, right?
I mean, the biggest thing though is that the fact that you can leave the drone somewhere, and even if Echo does die, you get 360 range vision.
Yeah. No, it is a lot, and especially because it's invisible. It makes it impossible for the attackers to see. And because I mean, you can see it, but you just don't have the time to be staring at the ceiling as an attacker looking for it. When you got to
Yeah.
be aiming at head level, it's just not gonna
I
pop right out at you.
I really do think Echo should only get one yokai drone. I think he should only get one. He should be forced to play super passive with it. It already does way too much. There's no reason for him to get two, and one is good enough.
You think? Well, Echo in the next patch is losing his deployable shield. So you think
That's
that on
enough.
top of losing an Echo drone, do you think he's good enough then?
Yeah, he'll be perfect. I mean, his gun already is decently strong and has an ACOG.
It is the best ACOG on defense, but I don't know. To me, that kind of hit is too hard.
Echo needs a hard hit. His ban rate is insane. I don't think deployable shield's going to change that much. Though I think the only thing that can truly change him from being banned every game is taking away a yokai drone. He just he's too good. There really is nothing else to say. He's too good.
The thing I would want to see is kind of something like Miestro. My idea would be the removing the shield off of him so he can't play that let me sit in a corner and hide play style anymore and just sit on his drones. So it's going to make him much more vulnerable. So I think instead of taking away one, what if when he died the cameras became visible and you could actually see them then? So they're no longer invisible. So they're popping right out at you and you can see them. So if you don't
It
see them,
depends on how visible it is.
well, it would just be like the black drone that it actually is, or black or gray, whatever the color is. But then it would
Or the
still.
middle light when people are on it.
What do you mean?
The drone, whenever people are on it, will emit a
Oh, does it
light.
make a
The
light?
current doesn't. Yeah,
I don't think it
and
makes.
also
I don't think the
how
drone has lights on it.
then how easy would it be to see even for an attacker? So
Well, if
I
you're getting,
actually
I mean, if you're getting spotted from a drone, or if you know you just killed an echo, I don't think it's gonna be that hard to look up at a ceiling unless it blends in. I guess you could have it on the light of a ceiling and it could be hard, but if you had it on like a normal ceiling, I don't think it'd be too hard to spot if you knew there was echo drones around. I think it makes the attackers have a much more fair chance of actually being able to get him out. You still have it's kind of like the Miestra thing. You still have the Miestra cam when he dies, just like you'd have the echo cam, but it's much easier for the attackers to get rid of.
I think it's good, but I think it would only work if one there's a light that's emitted whenever
To
people are
make it
watching
easier.
the drone, whenever it does become visible, and then two, it depends on how bright that light is.
Yeah,
Because if it's still super concealed, don't think that's going to be enough.
I mean, I don't think you have to make it crazy because look at Valkyrie. Valkyrie's cams, even when she dies, you still have a little light, but
It's a, I know, but it's
there's some
still
Val
like when
cams
you're
you can't see that are very hard to see that you can throw on a light on a ceiling and it's so hard to see.
yeah, but a lot of the Valk cams, whenever you're aware that one is watching you, and you're aware that it's somewhere near you, and you're looking for it, it's not too hard to pick out the light. And I do think the yokai drone would need some type of mechanic like that.
I mean, yeah, but the thing for a yokai drone, it can only be on the ceiling, where Valkyrie cam could be anywhere. So I think it could be even harder to find.
Well, yokai drones can be in the ceiling. They can be underneath drawers. Even though I don't think there's really that many drawers to
Sure,
hide them.
yeah. I mean, there's not many places that where a Valcam could be in a bush, under a desk. You know, they could be all over the place. So I think if it comes to them becoming visible when he dies, there's no way you're not gonna be able to find that as easily as a Valcam, even without the light. I think it's gonna be pretty easy to find, if anything. I think that's gonna take a huge hit on him. But as for personally him being alive, I don't know how you fix the effect when he's alive, because it's still gonna be no matter what. And even if he has one, or even if they become visible when he dies, you have that super strong stun when he's alive. No matter what, I think his ban rate is gonna be high just because he's the only one who can directly stop a plant when it's happening. He's the only one that can, you know what I mean, that can drop Montane shields and stun people, make your vision super blurry whenever he wants. Do you think there's a way that you could fix that? Or you think you just have to leave that how it is?
Maybe reduce the stun. I don't know why it got buffed recently. May decrease the time from, what is it, 10 seconds? Decrease it down to 7 seconds.
The stun doesn't last for 10 seconds. The audio is going to last for 10 seconds after the next update.
Do you know how long the stun lasts for?
I don't know the exact timing, but
maybe decrease the stun rate by just a flat out 15% or 20%. And then the audio, reduce it from 10 seconds to 7 seconds.
For like 7 or 8 seconds.
It's something. So if you reduce that too much, do you think there'll ever be a point where Echo becomes not good anymore then?
I think even if you only give Echo one drone and it becomes visible whenever he dies, he's still going to be picked. I really do believe that. I think Echo's insanely good.
Okay, I could see it. I could see it. Well, let's talk about a different person then. So you brought up earlier, Ryan, that you think Mute should lose one of his jammers.
I think Mute should lose one jammer. He should go down from 4 to 3. I don't know why he has 4. I think 3 is more than enough. I think Mozzie's pest, I think his pest should go down. Given how strong his pests are and how hard to counter his pests, because you really can't counter his pest with the drone. There is no indication like Mute's of when you get close to a pest. It's either you're in the vicinity or you're not. So I think Mozzie gets 2 pests. Mute gets 3 jammers. To me personally, I would put Echo as 1 drone.
Got you. One thing one thing that you just talked about, which I think is very true, is that when you are droning against a Mozzie, there is no way to tell when a Mozzie best is coming up or what even direction the thing is. Like a Mute jammer, you know, if you're at a doorway and you know when you're on the left side of the doorway, it's more, and when you're on the right side, it's less. You know it's inside the doorway to the left, so you could try jumping to the right to get away from it, right? But if you see that Mozzie symbol, you have no idea if it's on the left side of the door or the right. You have no way to avoid it. You just know it's somewhere in the vicinity. So I think Mozzie, it should have an audio cue or a symbol next to the triangle or something.
Oh, okay.
That you could tell what direction the spider is.
When you get shot, there's like the white line.
Yeah, it could be anything. And something on that triangle that shows you which way the pest is at. So if you want to just figure out where the pest is so you could avoid it, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be, because those Mozzie pests are way too strong. It's too easy to get drones. And all the drone spots you have on defense is just so much free intel. Mozzie has a lot of utility.
And Mozzie needs to be toned down a little bit. I know that he just got the super shorty nerf, and it is a really big nerf. But as far as defender utilities, because that's what we're talking about right now, defender utility. His utility as a defender with those passes is still a little over the top.
Mhm.
So if you don't even want to decrease his pass down from 3 to 2, the change making it more similar to mutes, to where the closer you get to a Mozzie pass, the more the symbol appears, or there's some type of alert that lets you know
Yeah.
when you're getting closer and closer. I think that needs to be implemented to put him in line with other people.
So, do you think that there has to be any decrease in utilities to someone like Smoke, or do you think Smoke is in a good spot? Because Smoke is
I know
one.
Smoke's picked a lot. Yeah.
Smoke is one of the best. One of the defenders that has the most utility. He's just like he's the second closest thing to stopping plans like Echo. You know what I mean? He
The
can
only
zone
thing
you
I
in.
would change with Smoke is maybe take away deployable shield from him and give it to someone else, a different defender.
So you think?
But I don't think his gas canisters need to be changed.
That's actually what I was gonna bring up next. Do you think deployable shield, they need to decrease the amount of deployable shields on defense, because given how strong they are, especially with they're not how they used to be, how they have the open slots now?
Yeah, being able to see through shields is very strong.
Mm.
But who is picked frequently? Who has deployable shield? Like I know Wamai,
Smoke, Ella.
Okay. Ella. Well, Ella's not
Echo.
gonna be played that much whenever this update hits.
Ella, Echo.
And Echo's always banned, so you don't really see him ever. Like deployable shields are strong, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're as prevalent. Like not enough to worry about it right now.
So you don't think they need to reduce the amount of deployable shields you can bring on defense?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
If anything, I just think that they should take Smoke shield and then put it on someone else.
Okay.
And just give Smoke a bulletproof.
So then, do you think, because you said mute, you think should lose a jammer, do you think they should do anything to Bandit or Cade's utility, or you think they're at a good spot?
I think Cade's in a beautiful spot right now. I don't think Cade's too strong at all. I don't like how you can put Cade. Oh.
I think Bandit should lose one of his utility.
You think he should go down to 3 batteries?
Yeah, I think he should go down to 3 batteries. Honestly.
The only thing I don't like about that though is then you can't get 2 walls. It's just hard to not be able to get 2 walls. Where then it feels like Cade's gotta be picked.
Double line.
Yeah, because then Cade can always get 2 walls and Bandit can't. Then I feel like a real high imbalance in the two. But I know what you mean. For bandit tricking purposes, I would want him to see him go down 2, because bandit tricking is strong, and yeah, it's a skill, but
maybe just
having 4 makes it much more to play around with.
Should bandit tricking be a thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think so.
I think so too. I don't think it's too bad.
Yeah, but I think bandit tricking itself is strong. I mean, Cade tricking is a thing too, but it's much harder because you only have 2. So you don't have much leeway. But with bandits,
I think Cade's in the perfect spot, personally. I don't think he's bad at all. His electric claw can be used to get out. Like, it has a lot of potential to it, but all it takes is 1 Thatcher and it's gone.
Sure.
And he only has 2. He doesn't have 4.
So the one other defender I would talk about probably is Valkyrie, because a lot of people hate how much vision you can get from Valkyrie, and the fact that you can hide it anywhere, and there's certain spots in certain maps where it's really, really hard to see, can make it so oppressive and so hard to play against. As well as she has C4, and if you're good with her gun, you can hit some some decent headshots. So do you think, either you guys think that Valkyrie needs to lose some of that utility, or you think she's at a good spot?
I think she can lose some of that utility.
When's the last time you've seen an actual change happen to Valkyrie? It's been a long time, don't you think? Do you think that it's because she's in a balanced state, or do you think there's a reason why? Do you think that's because she's in a balanced state, even though that her pick rate and her win rate is so high and she gives more intel than almost any other defender?
I think she's borderline OP. I think she's just I think she's just enough to not be considered too much in my eyes. Because her cams aren't that. You can hide Valk cams really, really well. But, I mean, IQ is a direct counter to them. And generally, most of the time, whenever you are aware of a Valk cam and you're searching for it, you can find it.
Yeah, but
Not all
there's
the time, but a lot of the times.
there's some Valcam spots where it's on top on a light, so it's very hard to see, or under a desk that the angle is so hard to see. There's plenty of
Right.
times, and even if you're not pinging on it, you don't know that the Valcam's watching. You think about all the time you played Siege. There's definitely times that you've been watched by Valcams and you had no idea. So just the fact that you have 3-2 on top of it. I mean, I feel like you can't reduce the amount of Valcams, how much cameras Valkyrie has, because that's, you know, I mean, that's what she's known for, and I feel like that would be too much if you took one away. But what if you change something to the utility of the Valcam? Like, I don't know, maybe if she died, the glowing blue light was always on, and even when you're not on the camera. So it can make something somewhat easier for attackers to find it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think that's really crazy or hard nerve? Because most of the times when she's dead, she's going to be looking at her Valcams, but if she's flicking through, only one's going to be lit up at a time. But if you have all of them lit up at once, it could be easier for attackers to be able to find them.
I mean, it's definitely a little weird. I don't think it's crazy.
I think
It's just-
I think it's something small that could just make it easier for attackers to deal with the utility.
with the problem with Valk though is that if you do hide her cam in really well hidden spots, whether the light's on or off, that's not the problem. Like the problem's not going to change.
Yeah.
You're not going to find the cam if it is really hidden in a good spot,
Yeah.
in a spot where in a direct light or something like that. So I don't think that would really change too much.
So you think is there any way you would reduce this Valkyrie's utility?
I would take away her C4, and that's it.
Yeah, I was thinking that at first,
I would not give her C4.
but at the same time, I don't know. What's her alternative to C4? Oh, she has deployable shield, right? As her alternative?
Deployable shield. I mean,
Does she
just give
still
her
have
barb.
deployable shield?
I think
Yeah, she still has the playable
Yeah,
shield.
that's what I thought. So she has deployable shield as her alternative, which is very strong. But I don't know. I feel like I mean maybe that is the solution to reduce her. If you take away her C4, it gets rid of the potential of her using her Valcams to C4 from below, using her Valcams to jump out in C4. She can't get away with it as much. But at the same, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Valkyrie is a high-skilled character to learn how to play.
Which is why I don't really want to change too much about her, because it depends on how well your team can utilize those camps. And also the skill of the Valk player himself to hit those hard to get spots. Because I know there are some pretty hard to get spots, like where you should throw your Valk cams and all.
Yeah, she's kind of where, when we were talking about Smoke, it's really hard for me to want to change. Just because to pull her off and get everything perfectly, it's more and more high skill gap people where you need to know where you want to throw it. I guess you could just have like a plan ahead of time and watch a video on where you want to throw your Valcams, but to be able to play around them and use and utilize
and that's
them.
where the C4 comes into play. So a lot of the times they'll use the C4 to play around it. Take that away.
Yeah, and it takes a hard hit off of her.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe at the same time, that makes it so your teammate has to have a C4, and you play 1 and 2 with him. You have your Valcam, and someone else has the C4, like Amazi has the C4, to utilize it.
That still is something. That still helps, at least.
It
forces them to be there, at least.
Does it make
Valkyrie can't be there anymore.
Yeah. Would Valkyrie be useless, though, if she doesn't have a C4?
No, she won't be useless. Having a cam is really strong. I mean, Mozzie's not useless. Even if Mozzie's pest and it take a drone away, even if for some weird reason his gadget was that he had 2 drones for defending, he would still be really strong. Like, it's free intel.
Mozzie kind of has the intel on top of the C4, like the Valkyrie. He kind of falls into the same boat, though, where he could use his drones with the C4 in tandem.
I understand. I mean, Valkyrie. Well, not only can you hide Valkyrie cams in good spots, but they're also small, and
Mhm.
they generally are hard to see, and you have to go out of your way to look for it.
Yeah.
So I,
I
I
think the
think
hardest bell cams are the ones that are outside because with the outside light, it just makes it so impossible to see the actual glow on the valve cams. So there's gonna be some times where you could have an outside light in a tree or on a snow map like Chalet.
yeah. How do you feel about outside bell cams? I don't know how to feel about that. Should that be a thing? Should it just blow the bell cam up if you throw it outside the building? Like should it stay?
I, I don't know. I feel like that would take away too much of Valkyrie though. I think certain
Really?
maps, but
Knowing where people are gonna repel in from, that's
yeah.
really, really
I
strong.
mean, I think
That's
there's certain maps though it's broken on. Like Chalet, it's impossible to see Val cams when they're in that snow. You are never gonna find a little blue light in that all white snow or in the trees there. You will never find a Val cam. But there's some maps that there's really only a few spots you can throw it outside, and if you know those common spots. So the one thing I feel about Valkyrie is that even if you don't play her, she's the type of operator that even if you don't play her, you have to know everything about her because you have to know the common Valcam spots on every map in order to play Siege. You have to know some general idea where she's gonna throw her
where
Valcams.
people push in from. And yeah, there's a lot to. I don't think that uh, a good Valk or an oppressive Valk is a person that's placed their cams in really good spots and just knows the map well. I don't think that's too much of a problem. That just indicates skill.
How do you feel about Valkyrie's utility offered?
I think that Valkyrie has a lot of utility, but what really keeps her in check is the fact that she has uh, the MPX, which is really low damage.
Forces you to have to hit headshots. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I feel like you have to have a certain advantage on someone when it comes to using Valkyrie. I think that's what makes her Valkyrie camera so essential.
And the final big defender I want to talk about, and I don't know how I forgot about her until now, is Mira. Mira is one of the most highest band defenders as well. She has one of the most oppressive defender utilities, I would say. And if you don't know how to play against her, it could be a hard thing to push against. You think there's a way that Mira you would want to take utility away from Mira?
Yeah,
The
give
one
Mira to Vera's pea shooter. Problem solved. No player.
no, but seriously. The vision the one-way vision that mirror windows give with the kill potential as well as making it so hard to push because you never know if someone's sitting behind it. With the C4, with the Vector being a solid gun, high rate of fire, she brings a lot. She's brings a lot to anchoring and holding down a point and adding vision. Makes it so much harder for the attackers to deal with. Is there any ways you guys can think of that you would reduce Mira?
You can get rid of her pocket shotgun.
Make it so she can't create rotate holes?
Yeah. Uh, I don't know.
I can see that as possible. Why? On top of it too, isn't Mira getting the new proximity gadget next in the next update?
Yeah, she's
Whenever
losing
it's
barbed wire for it.
yeah, whenever the update's coming out. So if she gets that on top of it, even with the C4 option, she could have that to have information on a third way. You could have two lines of sight, and you could have the proximity detector giving you info for a different way you're not even watching. I feel like Mira can be so strong on a lot of different places.
Maybe Mira should only be able to get one mirror window.
I was thinking that at first, but then it's just like I think that's way too weak, and there's no point of taking her then if it's just one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't really like that idea either.
it's very
Takes it
hard
away.
with Mira because it's very hard to balance her out. There's always gonna be some maps that she's so strong at, and some objectives she's not. But the maps she's so good at, if she's not banned, she literally changes how a attacker team has to attack. You don't want to fight against a mirror window ever. It makes it so hard.
You can give her a worse weapon. That's one way to nerf her. The Vector is insanely strong. I don't know what gun you could give her. Just give her something weaker. Give her something on like MPX, UMP level.
I mean,
Give her the castle treatment.
her
Just
damage
give
is
her a
not,
bad gun.
her DPS is not that crazy. It's just the crazy high rate of fire that the Vector has. That gun doesn't do. So do you think maybe they reduce the rate of fire that the Vector has?
Nah. I think the
But
Vector's
then that
strong.
puts Goya in even a worse spot. Like,
I just
it
think
just
that
means-
she needs a different gun altogether.
So you think she should lose the pocket shotgun secondary and get a different gun that's got a lower
No.
DPS?
Yeah,
I
she
feel like
needs
that
to
won't.
lose the pocket shotgun and her main weapon, the Vector. Yeah, I know her selection of guns should be different. They should be a lot weaker.
I also
Very,
feel like
very weak.
that doesn't address the problem though. Making her more
Yeah, that
uncomfortable
doesn't
to
address it.
play. Indirect, sure, it will lower her pick rate, making it more harder to play her and more uncomfortable to play her. But the problem with the utility is always still going to be there. It's just like how I think what the devs were thinking when they nerfed Jaeger. Reducing him to 2 speed, lowering the damage on his gun, just make it harder and people want to play him less. It lowers his pick rate a little bit. But at the end of the day, his utility is going to be too good to pass up on. So I think even with Mira, and even if she has the worst 2 guns in the game, sure, less people will play her. And
Well, that's the thing, though. I honestly don't think there's anything you can do to reduce your utility. So I would just go on to gadgets and weapons because that
Okay.
will deter people from picking her to some extent. Because giving her one mirror shield is pretty underwhelming. Let's not lie about that.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a direct.
Her having 2 mirror shields is very strong.
It
in
makes
certain maps.
sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think you can touch your utility. I would just have to nerf her in other areas. Hopefully that will lower her pick rate
Mm.
a little bit.
The only other defender I could think about having a lot of utility that you might want to nerf would be Legion. But how do you guys feel about where Legion is, considering he just took his nerf recently in the last few months?
I feel fine about Legion. Legion's still pretty strong, but
Yeah, I think Legion's in a good spot where he still can bring a lot of utility, but it's not crazy information with the utility.
do you think his mine should be visible? Do you think that's good?
Well, the concept I was thinking was maybe,
Yeah, if he dies, then they become visible. I'm okay with that. I think that'll be good.
yeah, something like that where, I mean, he already has the concept around him where he needs to stay alive to get more value. So I don't know if you have to throw that on top of it. If he dies, then he doesn't, you know what I mean? If he dies early, he's losing out on so many mines. Do you want to throw on top of it that they become visible? Then you get even more punished for dying early. You know what I mean?
It just means that you can't be aggressive with them.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. I don't know. I don't think Legion's that bad. He is annoying. He's very annoying. But I don't think he's that bad.
Yeah, I mean,
mines already don't really do damage.
yeah. Yeah, his mines are in a spot where it won't really do damage. It's just a little annoying, but it's not crazy. It gives you some information, but it's nothing crazy. It might slow you down a little bit. Okay, I can see that. So now, how do you guys feel? Will the 2 new operators coming in the game, will this fix any of these problems, or yeah, will they either buff and help fix the utility problems in the game, or hurt it even more?
Lucy's
Yeah.
gonna break the game.
Yeah,
Browser
Lucy's
slows
very
down and
strong.
runs away.
I think her being introduced just seems like they don't even really care about the problem.
Yeah, they're not aware of it. They don't know anything what's going on.
I think, with me personally, I think Melusi has to go from 3 of her gadget down to 2 before she gets added in this game, because 3 is just way too much. You can cover up so much area with that gadget. And the noise it makes, you might want to decrease that too, because that is so loud when people walk into it. I don't know how. And it's also just with the Jaeger problem, where you just set it down, you run away, and you just leave it there, and you're gonna get. And even if you die in the first 5 seconds running out, your utility is perfect. Nothing happens to it.
Should
So
also be another mechanic to her about whenever she dies, maybe it doesn't emit any sound when people walk in it, or some type of penalty for a death.
yeah, I would like to see something like that, or maybe the effect is decreased. Something like it doesn't have to slow you down as much. Something that would cause you to not want to get aggressive as her. Because right now I could just see everyone picking her instantly, placing her 3 gadgets around the point, and leaving and running away for the whole entire round. She's got impact, she's got a shield, she got everything she needs to survive. She just leaves, places her gadgets, she doesn't even have to worry about the objective anymore. She's done her job, she's helped you out. So I think Melusi's just adding to this problem even more, and that's going to be the biggest problem in the future. Now, do you think Ace is going to give the attackers way more utility? That's going to make a shift into this utility meta?
At first, I was going crazy about Ace, but now I still think he's amazingly strong, but I'm not sure. Actually, no, never mind. I take that back. No, he has smokes. I forgot he has smokes. He has smokes. He has the second strongest primary in the game. And he's a hard breacher at range.
See,
that has the potential to get out 3 walls, the size of regular thermite exothermic charges. So yeah, I do think it's going to change the meta a little bit.
Change the meta, but I don't think it will really affect the imbalance of utility from defenders to attackers. I think, yeah, I mean, I guess if you have him with smoke grenades, you don't need to bring a Capital or a second person that has smokes. So then you could opt to have an extra Zofia or an Ashe or someone that can deal with more utility. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
him himself doesn't bring anything that the game hasn't seen. He can open up walls. He can throw smoke grenades. He's got a strong gun. He really has nothing that does crazy damage to utility. But he is able to break Maestro camps and something if they're placed on certain surfaces. So it does bring a little.
He completely bypasses bandit tricking because you can just throw 2 of his Selmac mines on the same wall, right? So you have a double wall.
You throw one on each, yes, but
yeah.
He could place it on the first one and then go to the second one. You could just get only one little square. You could waste 2 and only get 1 little square. You know what I mean? Out of one of them.
Yeah, I haven't really seen that much gameplay of Ace in his Selmac mines and like the length of time that it takes for it to fully deploy. So I'm not too sure.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be interesting to see. That's my biggest thing. I'm very interested in seeing how it affects bandit tricking. So I can't really talk too much about that.
Yeah, that is fair. That's fair. Like I said before, though, I don't think it will affect the utility as much unless the team is letting him be the hard breacher and your smoker as well. So then you could, instead of running a Capital or someone else that throws the smoke for plant or blocks lines of sight, you could have an extra Ashe or Zofia or someone with frags that can take out utility, or a sledge who could break the castle barricades. So I think it could affect it, but I don't know if it'll have as crazy effect as Melusi will have on giving defenders so much more utility.
Well, it depends on the range of the Selmac mines. Like throwing one on the floor, and let's say there's a Melusi in the wall adjacent to the floor right next to it. How much range that Selmac mine had? Can you use it as a pseudo grenade to get out the Melusi? Like how, outside of hard breaching, how well can you use the Selmac mines to get out other gadgets, other utilities?
I don't know how it works on floors, but I know on walls, if you want to get Maestro off a wall, it has to be a soft wall behind the wall. If it's unbreakable, then you can't get it out. And the way you get it off the wall is you have to throw it 1 square above the Maestro cam, and it will break the Maestro. Or do you throw it 1 below? I don't know. Something. You throw it 1 above or 1 below. Yeah.
It breaches below.
Yeah.
From above below.
That's what I meant. Yeah, exactly. So
it depends on a lot of factors.
Yeah,
I think he has the potential to change the meta. Like, I still stand firm by that. It just depends on really how his Selmak minds will interact.
For him it's such question marks, but for Melusi, I feel like it's just gonna be so much guaranteed value that Melusi might become one of the most picked operators in Siege. I couldn't see a situation where you wouldn't want her.
I was trying to say that from the beginning whenever I first saw her.
Just for the fact of it's a set and forget a gadget, and we learned how strong they were. With the fact that she's a 3-speed, a solid gun, good secondary gadgets. It's literally everything you would want in an operator. And
How are you even supposed to get past the doorway? Like, think about Throne Room with Melusi. How are you ever supposed to push in there?
yeah, it definitely makes it difficult.
I don't know. I just don't understand it.
Yeah. So overall, after our discussion, do you guys feel like the easiest thing to do is buff attacker utility, nerf defender utility, or kind of a mix of both?
I definitely think nerfing attacker utility is
You
much easier right now.
you mean nerfing defender utility?
Yeah, not attacker defender, my bad.
Nerfing defender utility is easier.
Yeah.
To me, from what most people, I mean, you see a lot of pro league players like and want to see defender utility nerfed. I think more people in ranked would like to see attackers buffed.
I do want to see attackers buff too, yeah.
The only thing I could think would be I just couldn't imagine this game where attackers have so much utility they could just blow up everything. If you have Ashe and if you have Ashe and Zofia charges, extra Zofia charges, if you have frags everywhere, and you're able to just deal with everything, this would also be a scary game to say.
I think it's much easier to implement a nerf than it is to implement a meaningful buff.
Yeah, to me personally, I feel like it's at the end of the day, it really needs to be a mix of both of them. I think they should add attacker utility, and I liked your idea with the Thatcher, lesser version of a Thatcher EMP as a secondary gadget. Just like how they said it during this year, they're going to have a secondary gadget for a hard breach, an alternative to hard breaching. It makes you so on some objectives you can get away without running a hard breacher. Why not have a secondary gadget for Thatcher so you can get away without that? So I like that, and I like that idea. But at the same time, I think some attack defenders need to lose utility, especially the ones that we've seen have so much utility and have such a high brand rate, like Maestro, Echo, and Mira. What do you think, Offer? Do you think that it's got to be you think there's one direct answer, buff attacker, nerf defender, or you think it's really a mix of two?
I think we should definitely buff attackers and nerf defenders.
Do you think we really need both? Okay, a little bit of both.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. The links to the other podcasts, if you have not seen them, will be popping up on the screen right now. Peace.